Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special Crowdsource the Truth mini-series titled Where's Cullen? I'm going to start with the bottom line up front, something my former friend would appreciate. He's not here, and I'm not in Thailand, and he's not in Thailand. I'm at Red's Headers. What the hell am I doing here? Well, people might have noticed I've been on a little bit of a reduced production schedule the past couple of weeks. I've been on a nationwide road trip to answer the question, where's Cullen? And you might say to yourself, Jason, that's crazy. Why would you do that? Didn't you know where he was? We're actually also at the Shiriako Summit coffee shop, and they're having their Shiriako Summit, which I don't know anything about, but it seems to involve a bunch of really, I don't know, what are these, like resto mod, super duper looking cars. Oh, some of them are leaving. There was a cool Mustang over here just a minute ago. Can we see it? It's leaving. Damn it. That's the reason I wanted to do this video here. All these cool resto mod cars. Actually, wait a minute, the star of the show is still here. That's good news. Not this, I don't know what this is. Maybe a Packard or something. It's nice, hot rod. But look at this. Little Porsche. Totally awesome. Let's give this guy a thumbs up. Nice car. Can I just ask you a quick question? Can you tell me anything about the car?
Yeah. 61 Porsche Roadster 356.
Did you restore it?
I've owned it 57 years.
Holy cow, this is the car that James Dean crashed in, isn't it? No, but it's similar.
Not really. They were both Porsches, but his is a mid-engine, and it was a whole different kind of car.
Well, this is beautiful. You've owned it 57 years.
Yes.
Congratulations, it's in incredible shape.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, sir. Beautiful car. Well, okay, I thought that was what, 356, so he had a Speedster. Okay, well, wow. Anyway, that's not the point of the video, but it is good to see people in their classic cars. Not a resto mod, a 57-year-old Porsche. Older than me. Arguably running better than me. Now, the other thing that's interesting over here, is that Cullen there? No, definitely not, but that is a pretty badass vehicle. He's not over here either, but this is some kind of tank facility. Look at this. We have tanks. Yeah, so anyway, nationwide search for Cullen. But Jason, you're engagement farming. Well, people have said that to me. I don't know, it's very strange, you know. If you've been watching Crowdsource the Truth for a while, you know it's been a very long relationship with myself and Mr. Cullen. Appreciate the people who sponsor this show. If you're watching and you like it, you really should become a sponsor. Go to subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Sponsor the show so I can keep bringing people interesting videos about Porsches and tanks. And liars like John Cullen. I'm sorry to say, it took me many years to realize the deception. And people will say, oh, you're an idiot, Jason. I knew right away that guy, he had the glasses and the hat, shady as can be. All right. You know, there's some people who are predicting doomsday every single day, and eventually they'll be right. You can also sponsor the show on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. Point is, you can't just look at every single person and say, oh, he's a fed, this person's a Fed, he's a spook. Actually, that's a little bit of what Cullen did, didn't he? Everybody was a Fed, according to him. Everything was the GEC. I don't know that it necessarily works like that, you know? And I don't like to say things unless I have really strong evidence to support those things. And by the way, remember, I'm going to be sharing facts with people, and I'm also going to be sharing certain opinions that I've formed based on looking at and analyzing those facts. You're certainly free to come to different conclusions than I have. I say that all the time because I want to remind people, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to think. This is the Desert Training Center of Camp Young. Major General George S. Patton Jr. of the U.S. Army selected Camp Young as headquarters site for the Desert Training Center in March of 1942. That's quite interesting. Why a pyramid? Anyway, the point is, people can form their own opinions. And you know, some people love John Cullen. Some people have hated him from the beginning. I thought he was a friend of mine. He and I did a lot of work together. We've even traveled around. We've been to the Hoover Dam. That's in, I guess, Nevada, right? Or maybe it's on the borderline of Nevada and New Mexico, or Nevada and Arizona, or I don't know. Forgive me, I should know that. But then we also went to, wasn't it New Mexico where that crater was? He and I have done a bunch of stuff. We've been to Thailand. Oh yeah, that picture is from Thailand. So some people have presumed, oh, Jason, you made a cartoon of Cullen in Vegas. Does that mean he's in Vegas? No, he's not in Vegas. I don't want to tell people where he is. My goal is not to dox the guy. And by the way, if I wanted to do that, obviously I could. I could reveal his name, I could do any of that sort of stuff, but I'm not trying to be malicious. I don't enjoy malicious activity, and it serves no purpose. I'm just trying to live my life honestly, not be subjected to lawfare and social engineering and criminology, or not criminology, but criminal activity. I'm just trying to earn a living and, kind of do unto others. I think that's a good rule. That's one of the golden rules, isn't it? Here we have local veterans. This is nice. Who knew this was here? Look, we have like a desert water feature. It's almost a little oasis. Pretty nice. I don't, this is the Patton Museum, or General Patton Memorial Museum over there. I'm not going to go into the museum today. I just want to spend a little time telling people a bit about where is Cullen. And to be clear, I'm not going to say where he is, but I want to talk about how this whole where is Cullen situation came about. Now, a lot of people surmised that he has been kidnapped, rendered by the CIA, and taken to a black site or something like that. He was too close to the truth, He was talking to Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent and tracking Egyptian jets, and he got the call. Somebody told him, I don't know what. People had all these assumptions. And it was weird because it was a lot of fake accounts saying that, The whole thing with Cullen is missing, which he's not, first came to my attention when another highly dubious pseudonymous individual, and by that I mean, people know what pseudonymous means. It's semi-anonymous, somebody who operates in the public under a fake name. Leonardo da Vinci weapons of war invention. Scythed chariots. There are several designs for horse-drawn scythed chariots among Leonardo's sketches. The first involved the use of 4 large scythes, which were mounted in a manner similar to helicopter blades. Leonardo was a peaceable man who despised war. But this machine with its rotating skies is an absolute horror, in that when operating, it would slice the limbs from its victims, leaving them bleeding and helpless on the ground. Leonardo's sketch of this chariot depicts fallen soldiers in their death throes. The 4 large blades were placed in front of the horses and rotated by a large screw. A number of smaller scythes were attached to a chariot at the rear. So what the hell is this? Is this just somebody envisioning the... Yeah, look at that mechanism. Yeah, so anyway, a lot of people saw there was a dust up, and I don't know, maybe I'll do like it's not a counter lawfare episode. What's occurred to me over the past couple days is that counter lawfare is actually a subset of counter social engineering. Social engineers are out there trying to manipulate our perception and lie to us about different things. Oh, look at this. Leonardo da Vinci weapons of war. How many barrels on the organ? The way Leonardo da Vinci saw it, the problem with cannons of the time was that they took far too long to load. His solution to that problem was to build a multi-barreled gun that could be loaded and fired simultaneously. Multi-barreled guns that could be loaded and fired simultaneously. This idea forms the basis of war inventions like da Vinci's 33-barreled organ, which featured 33 small caliber guns or cannons connected together. The cannons were divided into 3 rows of 11 guns each. Well, why the hell did he select 33? You'd think maybe 30, right? I mean, 10, nice round number. That's weird. Was Leonardo da Vinci of the 33? I didn't know that was there. Ah, wow. So you see, it's like boom, rotate up to the next ones, boom, rotate up to the next ones, boom. This thing seems to rotate here. Well, quite clever. Everybody's always thinking about ways to kill people. See, the devious mind devises weapons. And so, yeah, counter social engineering. That's what I'm engaged in now. See, I detected a social engineering ploy aimed at me with John Cullen driving the tank, trying to destroy me. There goes another hot rodder. I was very upset about that. Now this, by the way, this part is opinion. I haven't proven that in court, but based on looking at the evidence that I've seen, I've come to the conclusion, it's my opinion, that John Cullen was engaged in a social engineering operation pointed at me. I don't know that that was the case the whole entire time that I knew him. I don't think so. I could be wrong. But remember, I met him in Thailand. He told us that he worked for Oracle. That always struck me as strange. If he was so interested in keeping his identity hidden, why would he tell us that he worked at Oracle? He gave us the time frame, spoke about projects that he worked on with the ESRI or ERSI, whatever that was, with the map, where he's the map's daddy. Pissed off so many people. I mean, if you wanted to be low-key, why act that way? Why not just do your information, not talk about your past employment? And also, look, it's one thing if you tell me, or you go to dinner and you tell 3 or 4 people, hey, I used to work at Oracle, or you're trying to establish communication with Eli Crane or Corey Mills or Joe Kent or whoever it is, and you reveal to them. But why does he want to go on a Twitter channel with 160,000 people and a YouTube channel with 75,000 people and tell everybody where he used to work and what he used to do if he's trying to keep his identity secret? I mean, logically, the conclusion that flows from that is that he didn't work at Oracle. And I can tell you this, when social engineers or lawfare practitioners endeavor to mess with me, what usually happens is it boomerangs on them. Nice dog. because I was ignoring Cullen. He and I got into a dust-up because there's a lot of reasons, and I guess I'll go into the details. I mean, if people want to see a counter-social engineering episode about the details of this, I will do it.
Oh, you see him when you did your walk.
And we'll get into the details. Right now is probably not convenient for that. We're just basically in the parking lot here. Glamping van. Nice, right? Yeah, but anyway, I just was caused to have to research Cullen a lot more than I ever had before. And I mean, look, I've known his name since being in Thailand, and it struck me as strange. He didn't like come out and tell me his name. I saw it like on his passport or his plane ticket, one of those, when we were at the airport. There's nothing interesting over here. And he was really nervous. It seemed weird to me, his reaction to me seeing his real name. And then when I wanted to call him by his real name in our offline conversations, he was like, no, don't do that, because you'll mess it up on the show. So I honored that. And it just all struck me as weird. You know, his point is he's super duper secret about his real name. And so when this whole Where is Cullen thing was launched by Diligent Denizen, because my last interaction with Cullen, you know, he posted on X a comment directed towards the lawyer Robert Barnes. Many people have heard about this already. He said something about how he's going to run for president and try Barnes for treason and how that's a hanging offense or something like that. And so then David Freiheit got involved. Viva Fry started saying, oh, that's a threat. You're threatening my friend. These guys are lawyers, okay? So it doesn't matter what you watching think, whether that is or is not a threat. It doesn't matter what the pseudonymous, malicious individual who chooses to go by John Cullen thinks. It matters how it's perceived by these lawyers. And they were making it clear that it was perceived as a threat. That is sufficient for them to go into court and say, hey, you know, we were threatened. I was threatened. This person posted a comment that I was perceived as a threat of true harm. You know, that's a thing. And by the way, the bar is much, much lower on X for saying it was a threat. You don't get to have due process and go into court and have a trial and all that. You just start getting mass reported and people say, oh, this guy was putting out threats, terminate his X account. Do people remember about 2 weeks after Charlie Kirk got shot, I got a, what do you call it, a sensitive content, you know, a sensitive content restriction on my account, where everything I was posting, they said, oh, this is sensitive content. You have to turn on your porn filter or something in order to be able to see it. And see, what that did was, when I saw this evidence that caused me to believe that there were drones flying around right after Charlie Kirk was shot, and that he was shot from behind, and that basically there was something more going on there. And remember, that tied in with the U.S. Army ISR jet that Cullen brought to my attention, and that we later learned that video that Cullen brought to me was made by Blake Bednarz, a social engineer who has dedicated a remarkable amount of energy to trying to counteract things that I've said about Charlie Kirk. It's strange, it's coincidental at least. But anyway, the bar is very low for getting those kind of sensitive content strikes. And when I got one, it basically took the tweets from getting like 1 to 2.5 million views overnight. I had 5-6 tweets 5 or 6 days in a row that got over 1 million, and one that got like 2.7 million views overnight. And I'm not boasting, I'm just saying this is my job. This is how I earn a living and buy food, putting out information on social media. So when my information proliferates and more people follow me and more people subscribe on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com, then I have money and I can buy things. So there's a difference between grifting and being a journalist and trying to earn money. I need to earn money. And when the tweets were getting 2 million views, more people were subscribing at JG_CSTT. For some reason that overlay has disappeared. But more people were subscribing, and that was helping me quite a lot. And so when that stopped, it was problematic. The sensitive content restriction, it was very bad for me. Luckily I got it overturned, but you know, I think people can guess at who was attempting to get my Twitter account, my X account, shut down. I hope you'll follow me there at JG_CSTT. But that same person, George's brother, he was at it again. And he was using Cullen's tweet at Viva Fry or Barnes or whoever it was, which included my image. You know, when when Viva pointed out that he thought this was a threat, Cullen dug in and responded and attached a video from Crowdsource the Truth that featured me and him. And, you know, he was kicking up this whole fight that I had no involvement in. I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't want to be in an argument with Barnes and Viva Fry. I just, you know, let those guys do whatever the hell they're doing and keep me out of it. I certainly don't want to be included in threats of true violence or things that could be perceived as threats of true violence. And sure enough, George's brother sent that John Cullen tweet to a lawyer for Twitter who I've been involved with. Remember, I'm in a lawsuit with Twitter. Goodman versus the City of New York. That lawyer has the ability to act on things very quickly. In fact, interacting with that lawyer, sending legal demands to that lawyer, that's how I got the sensitive content ban lifted. So basically, Cullen, the pseudonymous malicious individual known as Cullen, either through gross irresponsibility or deliberate action, put tremendous legal liability on me. I could have been sued by Barnes and he could have said, oh, this person and his associate are sending threats. Here's Jason in the tweet. I would have to go in front of a judge. Where does Barnes live? Tennessee? I would have to go in front of a judge and explain why I had nothing to do with it. That would have taken time. It would have cost money. That would have been more lawfare. Even if that didn't happen, I was immediately faced with the challenge of George's brother making an argument to the Twitter lawyer that me and my associate were involved in threats. It would have been quite easy to demonstrate that Cullen was my associate. There's hundreds of videos of us together. He used a video of me in this tweet that was perceived as a threat. And like I said, I wouldn't have had due process. I wouldn't have had a judge that I could go in front of. They would have just shut down my Twitter account, my X account. And obviously that was something that they wanted to do. When I was getting lots and lots of views on the evidence that I found that caused me to believe that Charlie Kirk was shot from behind, that was also at a time that the evidence bounty was going. So they were in like a full court press to stop me from raising money and ultimately earning money, because nobody was able to counteract that evidence. In fact, Chris Martinson recently produced a video that further contradicts the hypothesis that a 30-06 was fired at Charlie from the Losi Center. He hasn't eliminated my hypothesis. You know, he put out some incorrect information about my hypothesis, but he hasn't eliminated it as a possibility, which is kind of interesting, I think. But there was a full court press to shut down at JG_CSTT. That's become my largest social media platform. So when I put out videos on there and I invite people to subscribe to Crowdsource the Truth, to watch the sponsor exclusive content on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or when people subscribe on at JG_CSTT and get that sponsor exclusive content. They don't want me to be able to announce that to 90,000+ viewers. They want to minimize that. So whether through gross irresponsibility or deliberate involvement in a social engineering campaign, Cullen put me at risk. And I told him, you better delete that tweet. And he wasn't responding. I think I might have texted him. I think what I'm going to have to do is like a comprehensive going through the last moments of communicating with Cullen and explain to everyone how it is that I know, or I should say from the outset, I suspected that Cullen was fine. You know, diligent denizen, he came out and he said, John Cullen is missing. I've seen things on Instagram. Cullen is never on Instagram as far as I know, but I've seen things as far as TikTok and Instagram saying, oh, viral investigative journalist John Cullen is missing. After he reported on Egyptian jets, he went missing. He didn't go missing. There was zero evidence that he was missing. He stopped posting on social media, and it was literally within hours of he and I having this dust up about this threatening tweet, this tweet that was perceived as a threat by two lawyers who dislike me. And I asked him to delete it. He didn't respond. My recollection, and I'll go through very carefully and we'll make sure we have it right, but my recollection was that I first probably texted him or DM'd him. You know, he and I were friends. And he told me I was the only person who had his cell phone number, or at some point that's what he told me. I don't really believe anything that he told me at this point, but he wasn't responding. And by the way, this wasn't the first thing that he had done. We'll go into more details in future episodes of the Where is Cullen miniseries, but I told him, you've got to remove that tweet because, you know, I sent him a cease and desist essentially. Because then I forwarded that cease and desist letter to the Twitter attorney, and I told him that I said I have no control over this third party. He's not my colleague, he's acting independently, and I've sent him a cease and desist. He used my image without my permission, and I wanted to make sure that this Twitter attorney, X.com attorney, did not have the prerequisite to kick off my account, and also to let him know that I would litigate if they did. And so when Cullen wasn't responding as quickly as I wanted him to, I then started publicly posting that if he wants to do things that put legal liability on me, he should do that using his real name. I called upon him to reveal his real name. There's a raptor. Love it. And then, after that, as I recall, and we'll check it, I said that this is my last friendly warning to delete the tweet, because if he doesn't, my next move would be to take legal action against him, and that would force me to reveal his real name. And what I meant was he would be served with legal process. There would be a lawsuit against him. His name would be published in that lawsuit. And I knew that he did not want his name revealed. So for whatever reason that he was holding out on not deleting this threatening tweet, I was trying to convince him. I was negotiating with him, sending him a litigation warning. That's not a threat of violence. You're allowed to warn people that they're going to be sued if they don't perform. You know, live up to the contract, stop doing this, start doing that, or you will be sued. That is not illegal. But anyway, I told him that my next move would be legal action, and he very promptly deleted the offensive tweet. And he then sent me a text saying sorry, which was amazing. That's the first and only time he ever apologized to me in the 8 years that we've known each other, or 9 years that we've known each other. And then I sent him a text message that perhaps I'll reproduce in a future episode, but I instructed him that we would not be communicating anymore. And he immediately stopped posting on social media after that. So that was my initial, this is why when Diligent Denizen started saying he's missing, I said, he's not missing. You have no evidence that he's missing. I felt very strongly that he was all right. In a future episode, I'll go into more details and I'll share more evidence and information. Again, Cullen is not anywhere around here. I'm now on to several different things that I'll be doing over the next days and weeks, and I don't want to say any more about that, but people can sponsor the show on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. I also appreciate everybody who is following me on X at JG_CSTT and subscribing there. Everybody there gets access to sponsor exclusive content. John Cullen is fine. He hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been kidnapped. He's not dead. He's not in the hospital. He's just a fucking asshole. Thanks for watching.